Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today, did Kevin Durant just blame Kyrie Irving for their failed net super team? What are we talking about? Well, last week, Kevin Durant went on to the Mind the Game podcast hosted by LeBron James and Steve Nash, who coached Kevin Durant during his time in Brooklyn. And Steve Nash asked KD, hey, what do you think went wrong in Brooklyn, and why do you think we did not meet our expectations? And, well, this is how Kevin Durant decided to answer that question. I'll go ahead and play this clip from Mind the Game.
I had just signed that deal. You had just signed the deal. But I feel like we were secure, but everything else around us was going not in a bad way. We got GMs going to other teams. We got coaches going to other teams. We got players forcing trades. We got bringing Ben Simmons. He's back. Like, it was just so much
stuff going on.
And around us, I feel like we were locked in on the same page and understand, like, well, we're trying to do something special here. And I felt like your hands were tied a lot because you had to, as a coach, you got to deal with so much.
I didn't get to coach as much as I wanted to.
That's what it was. I didn't think we didn't get the full Steve Nash like I wanted, like you probably wanted. I just felt like it was just too much, too many distractions in a way. And, you know, you can't win that way. But I felt like we had great intentions, though. I felt like we cared enough. I felt like every day we were trying to push towards winning the champ. It was a great vibe in there. Some of the best times. That first year, that's why I signed that deal. That first year, man, most fun ball I had. Some of the most fun ball I had playing my whole life. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Brooklyn a lot. I love playing for Brooklyn, but it's just so much
stuff happened
around the guys that were committed to the situation. I felt like we were committed, but everybody else wasn't. It just was weird.
So I love and hate that answer there from KD. One, I hate it because Steve Nash was doing it too. They kept just saying, like, these distractions. It's like, I wish someone was there to ask the question, okay, wait. Well, what are these distractions? Are these things that we know about, that was reported at the time, that we were talking about social media at the time, or is this something completely different that was kept in the locker room that was bothering you guys and preventing you guys from being the best versions of yourselves? And, you know, they kept saying distractions and stuff. And it's like, I would like them to elaborate a little bit more. I know the reason they don't is because then it would just blow up like crazy. But the thing I do love about that answer, though, is KD was just being completely honest about his feelings on the situation and just was grounded in reality talking about that there. Because I was a little kind of curious about how KD thought about the Brooklyn situation, because he's been responding to people on Twitter talking about it recently, where people have been like tweeting at him going like, hey, dude, your Brooklyn tenure was a disaster and you haven't done anything since Golden State. And then he asked them to elaborate on that. And then they just say something like, hey, you haven't made the conference finals since you left Golden State or something like that. And then KD has been responding and be like, hey, look at all the numbers I've been putting up. Look at the efficiency I still got. I'm still an incredibly awesome basketball player. Look at the all NBAs I got. And that was a thing I was reading that sometimes going like, does he really just look back at that Brooklyn situation and is like, hey, everything was like cool and like it wasn't that bad, and like it's something I was kind of confused at. So it's really nice for him to get an answer here and be like, hey, things were not going well here. We had a good thing going in 2021, and then we had coaches like Ime Udoka go to the Boston Celtics. We had people in the front office leave. We had injuries, which is another clip that you get to, if you watch the whole show or see more clips, they end up talking about how the injuries really impacted them. And that's really kind of the main story of the KD, Kyrie, Brooklyn Nets and why things didn't work out. But that brings up another question here too, is why are we talking about this right now? Because this is a video that was posted on July 8th. I'm recording this July 18th, by the way. And this is a video that I think just kind of went into the Twitter ecosphere, and I didn't really see anyone interact with it that much. I didn't see that many people try to aggregate this and be like, look, KD throws teammates under the bus or anything like that. Like, not even Awful Announcing did anything. Like no one really talked about this. But this post here from Mind the Game went mega viral on Thursday. Well, why did it go mega viral? Well, here is why, as I will go ahead now and zoom out of this little frame here. As you can see, a Mr. Kyrie Irving quote tweets this and says, LOL, I'm going to address this on my stream soon. This is absolutely fascinating here because, one, who knows what Kyrie Irving means by what he's saying here? Because, like, if you're doing the Occam's razor approach here, the fact that he says, I'm going to address this on my stream soon, that makes you believe that Kyrie watched this clip or maybe watched the whole podcast and felt very slighted by that and maybe felt that he was getting thrown under the bus, which was kind of interesting to me because I thought KD and Kyrie were cool. I thought these guys were cool. If anything, a criticism of Kevin Durant in his time in Brooklyn was that he was way too loyal to Kyrie. And he should have, like, just, when Harden was like, hey, I'm out of here, I don't want to play in Brooklyn anymore, KD probably should have grabbed Harden and be like, hey, let's just push this guy off the ledge here and let's me and you stay here in Brooklyn and keep the super team thing going. If it's you or him, I'm going to go with you, James. Like, you thought these guys were cool. So that's what makes me think here is when he is saying this, I'm going to address this on my stream soon. What does he mean? Does he mean, hey, because Kevin Durant talked 90% of that, right? Steve Nash talked a little bit in that clip there. But is Kyrie going to say, hey, no, KD, here is where you were wrong. Or this is what you did wrong. Is he going to do something like that? Is he going to do something like, hey, no, actually, Steve Nash, who, by the way, there's a quote from Kyrie. I think he was actually on Kevin Durant's podcast while they're playing for the Nets. And he said, we really don't need a coach. He's like, sometimes I can be the coach. Sometimes Kevin can be the coach. Sometimes James can be the coach. And is he going to say something like, hey, like, no, Steve Nash was not that good of a coach? Is he going to get into a James Harden thing? Because it's been, very much thought of that he and James Harden did not get along, especially towards the end. Is it going to be something about the Brooklyn Nets front office? Is it going to be something like the ownership and Joe Tsai? I have no idea. I have no idea. That is trying to get into Kyrie Irving's brain, and that is something I will not try to do. But Occam's razor tells us, hey, Kevin Durant's the one that's talking 90% in this clip here. He talks about trade requests. He talks about distractions. It makes you believe Kyrie is going to go and be like, oh, no, here we go. Here is where I was right in this Brooklyn situation, and maybe you, Kevin Durant, or maybe someone else in this situation was wrong, which is incredibly fascinating to me. By the way, I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and stop sharing the screen right now. I will edit in Kevin Durant quote tweeted Kyrie Irving's quote tweet and basically said, it'll get edited in on here, but basically said, okay, I'll get my notifications ready. So, again, I thought these guys were still friends and they still had like a decent friendship, even though the team didn't work out. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea what's going to happen here. This is where I'm at. This is why this show is going to start off with a question in the description. Tell me what you guys think. I don't know when he's going to stream again. It's like he streamed last week, which is weird because he streamed after that clip got posted. So why wouldn't he have addressed it on like that? It was like a 23-hour Twitch stream. So I don't know why he wouldn't have addressed it there. Maybe he didn't see that until, he did the tweet about it. Maybe cooler heads will prevail and he won't address it at all. Maybe this is something that's addressed off camera where nobody else will see it. I don't know what Kyrie Irving means there. But this did get me thinking, though. Like, why did the Brooklyn Nets fail? Why did this team that for one series against Boston in 2021, where they just looked like a precise assassin basketball team with their passing, everything looks so crisp. And you were watching them against Boston, who had a lot of really good defensive players on it, just watch them dice them up like sushi. And you went like, oh my God, this team is just going to run to the NBA Finals. And then Kyrie gets hurt, Harden gets hurt, KD's toe on the line, and that's all she wrote. I mean, if you're looking at the number one reason why the Brooklyn Nets with KD and Kyrie didn't work, the number one reason is just injuries. Just injuries. That's just period, end of sentence. Because KD, Harden, and Kyrie, they were together for like basically, if you count the beginning of when James Harden came to when he ended up getting traded from Brooklyn, they were basically together an entire season. But all three of them only played in games together 16 times. And those 16 times they went 13-3. So that was the issue. They just couldn't stay healthy at the same time. But if you're looking to point fingers in other directions, and if you actually want to play the blame game and you actually have to give it to certain people, I mean, I don't think it's debatable. Kyrie Irving's the one that screwed it up the most. If we're being honest about Kyrie Irving's career, from his second year in Boston till the time he got traded to the Dallas Mavericks, he didn't care about winning basketball games. He didn't care about winning basketball games. Let's just be real here. He was in a really good situation in Boston. He was the star there. He was on a really good team that could compete for titles for the entire 2020s and maybe the rest of his career if he decided to stay there. And he's like, deuces, I'm going to go to the Brooklyn team where KD isn't going to play the first year because he just popped his Achilles. And we'll build our own super team here. He took several leaves of absence during Brooklyn. Some that you go back and look at them, they make sense. There's other ones where you're like, I still don't know what was going on there with Kyrie. And his head was just in another place. His head was just in another place. Week after week after week after week with his time in Brooklyn, he was a distraction from 2021, 2022 to the time he got traded. He was a distraction. When you're talking about distractions, or when you were looking at that KD Nash video, when they're talking about distractions, it's pretty hard for you to watch that and think it's not Kyrie Irving that they're talking about. He posted a anti-Semitic documentary. I don't even know if you could call it a documentary because I don't think it was true, because I think the claim that they made in that video was that the Holocaust did not happen. If my memory's correct, that's what happened. And like his head was just not in the right place. And I know he was a person that was incredibly affected by a lot of the social and political moments that were happening in the United States during that time. And that's completely okay. You can be affected by this stuff. You can be emotional about this stuff. You can be you can have opinions about this stuff. You can support different things. You can think whatever you want to think. Like, I don't think anyone is against that, even if you completely disagree with someone on what they think politically or socially or etc. Right? I think we all agree with that stuff. However you want to live your lives, as long as you're, obviously obeying the law and being a good citizen. But if you're going to use that stuff and you're going to be so affected by it that it's going to make it where you can't show up to games, where your team is completely out of the loop, don't know what games you're going to be playing in. I mean, the other thing, too, that I should have mentioned earlier was he didn't want to take the vaccine, which is something that like 99% of the NBA did. And because of the laws in, I don't know if it was the state of New York or New York City, he couldn't play in home games, so he could only play in road games. And these kind of issues that Kyrie Irving did after one season, James Harden was like, yeah, this guy is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Peace out. Send me to Philly, homie. And like James Harden was still he's still a really good basketball player now, 3 years later, but he was a really good basketball player then. And he didn't want to carry this load when Kyrie Irving can only play half of the games because, you can make fun of the law all you want, but it was still something that was affecting the basketball team. Right. And like, that's on you, homie. And Kyrie, to his credit, by the way, once he got to Dallas, his head was on straight. He wasn't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs anymore. He has been a model citizen for the Dallas Mavericks. He's been a model partner for the Dallas Mavericks. He has done everything and then some when they traded for him. Remember, when they traded for him, Kyrie's stock was at an all-time low. Like, there were not many people that wanted to trade for Kyrie. There are not that many people that would have wanted to sign Kyrie in free agency. That is how low he had tanked his trade value. And again, in Dallas, and this is credit to Kyrie. Like, even when Luka got traded, he was acting like a true leader with things he was saying in press conferences. He was like, I'm ready to lead this team. I'm ready to do everything it takes. I love Dallas. I'm here for you guys. Like, he was a guy that is a beloved Dallas Maverick by all their fans, and it's very tragic that he tore his ACL this past season. But with his time with the Brooklyn Nets, he was not a good partner for the Brooklyn Nets. Again, the players, especially the star players, are partners with the teams. Kyrie Irving was a bad partner when it came to Brooklyn. And from 2019 to 22 or 23, whenever he got traded to Dallas, I guess it was 23, he didn't care about winning. That's the biggest issue with that Brooklyn Nets team, is that it was injuries, one, and two, Kyrie Irving couldn't keep his head on straight. If you're going for option two, you have to start blaming Kevin Durant a little bit here, because, and this is in conjunction with Kyrie Irving too, because they came into Brooklyn, they're like, hey, we love the culture that you guys built here, and then they completely just got rid of the culture. They got rid of Kenny Atkinson because Kenny Atkinson wanted to start Jared Allen, who, by the way, they immediately trade Jared Allen and he makes an all-star team immediately, for DeAndre Jordan, who was washed. He's been washed for a long time now, and like, that was just a bad coaching decision. By the way, Kenny Atkinson goes to Cleveland, wins Coach of the Year, and all these other things about influencing roster decisions. Like, I don't even think they needed, when I remember in the moment thinking they didn't even need to trade for James Harden in the moment in 2000, what was that, 21. I think they would have been able to compete for a title without James Harden, because they did sacrifice, like they got rid of Karis LeVert in that trade. They got rid of Jared Allen in that trade. I think they might have got rid of somebody else too. But I think they could have competed even without James Harden. But even, and again, in those 4 games that we saw, the small sample size we saw of all 3 playing together, it kind of made me look stupid, because they looked like an absolute dominant basketball team. And there's been a lot of talk too about Kevin Durant's leadership, and people criticizing his leadership, and Kevin Durant has come back and, fired back at people for doubting his leadership, because basically he's like, hey, you don't know what's going on in the locker room of these teams. You don't know what is said in these things. You don't know what I am like in these rooms. And the way to counter that is basically saying, well, what about Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving, he's like a crazy person for 4 years in Brooklyn, and then he goes to Dallas, and he's like a completely different human being. It's like someone literally just flipped a switch in the back of his head, and he's like, oh, normal Kyrie now. Normal Kyrie. I'm going to act normal now. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to be a good partner. Like, that is, and even too, and this will all defend Kevin Durant, maybe in that time, maybe no one could have reached him. Maybe no one could have talked sense into that dude. I'm sure you guys tried. That's what they're talking about with Steve Nash there. He didn't even get a chance to coach. There's another clip where Steve Nash is like, or maybe, I don't know if Kevin Durant said it to Steve Nash or Steve Nash said it himself, where they're like, yeah, Steve Nash had to play like principal. He had to be like their principal. He had to be like the bad guy in that locker room at times. I wonder who he's being the bad guy to. So again, like that's really what it came down to. It was these guys controlling the organization, pushing the wrong buttons. I mean, Steve Nash was their guy too, who, again, I agree with KD in this clip, and Steve too. He didn't get a fair shake in Brooklyn. Again, his stars were hurt all the time. He was, and one of the stars was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for a few years there, where you just didn't know where his head was at. And that's what I mean by that. Like, I don't mean he's like a crazy person or like mentally ill. Like, you just didn't know where his head was at. And that was the issue the entire time with Brooklyn, where it was like, I don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to do today. I'm worried that he is not going to show up for practice today, or he's not going to show up to this game today. That was a ongoing concern with Kyrie in Brooklyn. And that's ultimately why their last season there, Brooklyn's like, hey, Kyrie, we don't want to give you the contract that you want, because you have been a bad partner over the last 4 years for a variety of different reasons. And then Kyrie was like, all right, deuces, trade request, I'm out. And then, by the way, too, I think that team, even without them, still could have been good that last year. Like, there was a stretch that last year after they fired Steve Nash where they went like 18-2 over a 20-game stretch. Like, they were still a pretty good basketball team. And, I mean, this gets back to a really big basketball conspiracy, or I don't know if it's a conspiracy, but you could say the curse, and that is the curse of Dr. J. If you guys don't remember, when let me think how this works, right? So there's the thing, they were used to be the New York Nets with the ABA, and the New York Nets had Dr. J. And when the ABA and the NBA merged, the New York Nets were in the same region as the So there was an NBA rule where it's like you can only have 2 teams or 1 team in a certain city at that time. And since the Nets were moving to the Knicks area, they had to pay a fee. They had to pay a fee to the New York Knicks, and I think it was like $5 million. But what the Nets actually did is they talked to the Knicks, and they're like, "Hey, if you guys waive this $5 million fee or whatever, we'll give you Dr. J. We will give you him for $5 million." The Knicks said no. Instead, they gave Dr. J to Philly for the money. They gave that money to the Knicks. I think that's how the story worked. I think that's how it worked. Basically, the Knicks had a shot to get Dr. J, and the Nets needed money to be in New York. And then they ended up moving to New Jersey and then back to Brooklyn and blah, 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 blah. Oh. Just a little bit of an NBA history lesson for you there. Well, anyway, this has been a long one. That's going to do it for this episode here today. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment what you think. Again, I don't know what's going through Kyrie Irving's head. Is he talking about KD? Is he talking about Steve Nash? Is he talking about somebody else? Is homie going to cool down and not even address anything? I don't know. It is weird. It is really weird. Like, again, it doesn't seem like there's any bad blood yet. Because even KD wasn't like, KD was like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing you." Like, again, that tweet showed up earlier. But yeah, that's going to do it. Leave your comments. Leave your thoughts. Love to hear what you think. And again, thank you for watching. Check out other videos on this page. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.